Avalon Cablevision proudly presents for its fourth consecutive season, Sports Personalities. And now here's your host, Ted Patey.
One of the top bowlers ever produced in this province joins us tonight on Sports Personalities. He has won numerous titles and awards over the years, with his career starting in 1961 in Labrador City. In 1964, he won his first All-Newfoundland Bowling Championship. He is currently president of the Five-Pin Newfoundland Bowling Association and vice president of the Canadian Five-Pin Bowling Association. Born in Torbay, grew up in Torbay, and now living in Flat Rock. Joining us tonight on Sports Personalities is Fred Hawco. And Fred, welcome to Sports Personalities. Certainly a pleasure to have you aboard.
It's a pleasure being here.
Fred, I mentioned in the intro, in 1961, your bowling career started out in Labrador City, and you were telling me up until that time you had never seen a bowling lane before in your life.
No, we went to Labrador City. I went to Labrador City to work in '61, and as you know, mining town and everything like that. There wasn't a hell of a lot of activity down there. So there was a bowling centre there, and when you're working 8 hours a day and off 16, you get involved in the bowling. So we used to roll 25, 30, 40 games a day.
And I understand, Fred, you used to get taken for a little ride by some of the probably the better bowlers in playing for money games.
Yeah, there was a guy there that had a gender service and from Italy, and another fellow from Spain. And every time we rolled them, if we rolled 220, they rolled 222. If we rolled 230, they rolled 235. So we didn't catch on till after that, they were just beating us. But, we were so close, we keep coming back for more punishment.
Mm-hmm. And Fred, it certainly didn't take you long to learn the knack of bowling, because just 3 years later, in 1964, you won your first All-Newfoundland Bowling Championship here at the Plaza Bowl in St. John's.
Yeah, that's right. We came out, represented Labrador City, we came out to the Plaza in '64. Bill Hogan was one of the main forces to getting us out. Bill was the manager he was working on there at the time, and he also managed us, and so he was the driving force of getting us to come to the Plaza at that time.
Mm-hmm. And I'm understanding that first bowling title you won, there's a story connected with a good friend of ours, Jim Sharpeggy of Gander.
Oh yeah, Jim Sharpeggy of Gander, if I can get it right now, rolled the high score that's ever been rolled in the All-Newfoundland Championship. I think it's 1,040 or 1,034 or something in that. It was 1,000 something anyway. And he rolled it on a Friday night, and we were supposed to bowl Gander early the next morning. And if we beat Gander next morning, we had a good shot at the championship. We only had to win the next game. So anyway, Bill goes out and goes to buys a case of liquor. Brings it back and brings it up to Gander room and passes it to Mr. Sharpeggy and his friends and said, here's a small token for rolling the 1,000 triple. So anyway, the next morning when they came in, they were a little bit, they're using Newfoundland phrase, under the weather.
Under the weather.
And, we beat him, but like Bill said after, he didn't tell them to drink it.
Yeah, but Fred, then you remained on the Labrador coast for a few years after that. You returned home briefly, did a bit of bowling at St. Pat's, and went back to Churchill Falls. I think you did some more bowling back there.
Yeah, I was lucky enough that when I went back to Churchill, they had 4 lanes there, so I got involved in the bowling. I just kept it up with what I was really doing. And then I came back to Newfoundland in 1970. And when I came back to Newfoundland in 1970, I went up to St. Pat's and tried to get a game with some people. And Alf said that told me he would get a game, Alf Smith. So anyway, then, Ash Rossiter was looking for some people to bowl with him, so Alf got me a game with us, and that was a start of, a career with Ross that lasted about 10 years, and we won everything we could have won. There was nothing we couldn't win as a team in that 10-year period. Mm-hmm.
And of course, you were at that same period that you teamed up with us. There was a couple of more great bowlers around that time, too.
Oh yeah, because Joe O'Brien was with us, Jack Garner-Byrne was with us, you know Jack Garner-Byrne, and Rossiter, and Junior Goss was there a while. One of our perfect game people that was there with us too.
Mm-hmm. And of course, that team went on to win 5 straight Atlantic Bowling Championships, and that had to be quite an honor in itself.
Yeah. I think we started in 73. I think we started to go to the Atlantic, so I'm quite sure on that, but I think it was in 73. and we won 5 straight right up to 78. And then the 78 series, they were going to Bowling Canada was divided in East and West section, right? Like Western Canada Association and Eastern Canada Association. So they were trying to form the one association. So at the time, Net Power was president of Newfoundland 5-Pin Bowler Association. So she went to Thunder Bay representing Newfoundland. And when the Maritime Association got an invitation from Sid Manning to attend it under the Western Canada one. So myself and Rossiter was, nominated to go to this meeting, which we did. And I think us would have gotten a position on the Canadian Association if he had that time at that time. But he didn't. So when we came back to Newfoundland then, Us said that he was going, he didn't have time to get into the executive capacity. And so anyway, I ran for the president of the Newfoundland Association in '78 and got elected, and I've been there ever since.
And Fred, 1979, just after that Canadian 5-Pin Bowling Association was formed, or that following year, you coached the Newfoundland men's team that won the first national bowling championship for us in Victoria, BC.
That was the first year that the Canadian Association was involved right across Canada, and I was coaching the men's team, which was Jerry Williams, Gordon Pender, Brig Knopfler, John Byrne, Vince Vallisori, and Patey Fitzgerald. You got them all right. And we went over there and we landed in Vancouver, and then we had to go across to Victoria. So we changed planes and went across to Victoria, and when we got just about 10 feet from the runway, he brought the plane back up again, and we came back to Vancouver. And he told us that he couldn't land because there was a tremendous crosswind, and he just was too dangerous. So we had a flight then for 10 o'clock next morning to make it over. Now, in the meantime, the tournament started at 9, right? And apparently they were going to disqualify us because we were not there. But anyway, a friend of Newfoundlanders, I guess would say Newfoundlanders, Bert Garside from Ontario, said that, Ontario wasn't going to participate in any tournament, any games unless Newfoundland was there, So maybe it had something to do because he was married to a Newfoundland girl and that. So we got over 10 o'clock next morning, then they went ahead with their first game, right? We got over 10 o'clock and they had a bus at the airport to pick us up and rush us right to the bowling center. So anyway, they had the uniforms, Patey Fitzgerald had the uniforms already over there. And we had to give the uniforms on the bus, and the girls had changed on the back of the bus in their uniforms, and the men had to change in their uniforms on the bus before we got over there. So we walked in the bowling center and we went from there. But it came down to Jerry Williams against Manitoba, if I'm correct. And Jerry needed a strike. When he got the first strike, and the second ball he left up the 2-pin, and he had to have that to win the championship, and he got it.
How was the competition at that tournament, Fred? Was it very high?
Oh yeah, it was very, very high. Any national competition this high, the caliber is definitely high. But like you say, we were going into something here, and maybe then again the rest of the provinces didn't take it serious because it's the first time Newfoundland was ever in it. So maybe they said they only had to walk on the lanes. If you get into an attitude in bowling today or any team that you can just walk on the lanes and say, oh, you're going to win, it just doesn't happen. Because first of all, you're behind and you can't catch up.
Mm-hmm. Fred, your bowling career high, what would that be after bowling all those years?
Well, I think the highest average I ever rolled was in the inner club, it was around 270, and I rolled in this commercial league at 262 average.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned to me a couple of days ago that you were probably a better teacher than you were a bowler. Why do you say that?
No, I know the game pretty well, right? And if somebody's doing something wrong or whatever the case may be, or, they're not getting strikes or not even on the hit pin, name the game is hit the hit pin with the first ball. So I can usually pick up their mistakes.
Fred, one of the big goals of the Newfoundland Bowling Association right now is a bowlerama for the handicapped children, and that should create a lot of high interest.
Yeah, that's right. The Canadian Association was involved with the Big Brothers right up to last year, right? And anyway, through the G's and the Reels, they withdrew. The Big Brothers Association withdrew from the national body. And so, each province is left on its own. So anyway, last year we got involved with the rehab center for the handicapped people, and they asked us would we get involved in the bowling, so we said we would. So at that time we put together, a bowlerama type thing, right? Since then, the same bowlerama that we put together here, first put together, is after going in BC, or in Saskatchewan this year. And they're hoping to raise $200,000 in Saskatchewan alone this year. In the province of Manitoba, in Winnipeg is running it too. So they're running on the same principle that we are running it here. We're going to be running it here, and we're going to be running in every zone in Newfoundland, where all the bowlers that will be participating, they'll be getting pledge sheets and donations for the crippled children. We're hoping to have all the media involved, all the business sections involved, service clubs, the hotels, the supermarkets, everything is going to be involved, and it's going to be a big project for us.
Fred, you just mentioned the other province being involved too, but what is the general membership of each province in bowling?
Our membership totally in Canada is in the neighbourhood of 200,000 registered members in Canada. Ontario leads with a quarter, that was 50,000, and then it's BC with roughly 35,000. Then you got Saskatchewan with 35. Alberta got about 25. Manitoba is down about 12. Quebec got about, I think it's Quebec and the Maritime province is just about on a par. Quebec got 2,000. New Brunswick got 1,000. Nova Scotia got 1,000. PEI got 1,500. And Newfoundland got 3,000.
And Fred, with bowling making such strides right across Canada, where are some of the powerhouses?
Ontario is really the powerhouse because it's numbers games. They got 50,000 people, bowlers to draw from. So, but then again, you got a situation where they got to roll off in every province, and you got to come out as a team. If Newfoundland, if I wanted to pick an all-star team from Newfoundland, and the other provinces were allowed to pick an all-star team the same as we wouldn't have a ghost of a chance, because they'd have their 5 or 6 or 10 best bowlers in the province. And, just don't happen when each zone or each town is forming a team, and then you go to a roll-off and maybe somebody gets lucky or somebody has a couple of good games and this team wins. And so that team represents the province. Same way with us. So regardless, when we send a team, we're usually fairly strong anyway in all categories.
Fred, are there any clinics being given today by the Newfoundland Bowling Association?
Yeah, we got a coaching program in place, and we upgrade anybody that want to become a coach in bowling can become a coach in bowling if they want to. We have in the YBC now a lot of the parents and senior YBCers that helps us younger ones takes the coaching clinic, and it's only fairly cheap. You can get the coaching clinic for $15.
Fred, would you be able to come back next week and join us for part 2 of this series, and let's talk about the bowling in Newfoundland and some of the other bowling greats?
Will do. Love to.
Okay, our guest tonight on Sports Personalities has been our Newfoundland bowling great, Fred Hawco. Fred will join us again next week for part 2. So that's it for Sports Personalities this week. See you next week. Good night.
The first Acadian settlers picked the wrong place to live. An ice-bound island in the Bay of Fundy, which they promptly denuded for house timber. 79 craftsmen from mild central France had come for furs and had none to wear. They subsisted on snow water and salt meat, lacking medicine, Indian advice, and even firewood. Half the men eventually died of scurvy and exposure. With spring and supplies from France, they scoured the coast for 200 miles south, only to return to the Bay of Fundy, and a very much better sight. Champlain's men built a charming late medieval hotel with fresh water and firewood and all the conveniences of 1605. Called it Port Royal, heart of Acadia.
Avalon Cablevision proudly presents for its 4th consecutive season, Sports Personalities. And now here's your host, Ted Patey.
Welcome back to Sports Personalities for part 2 of the Fred Hawco bowling story. As we mentioned last week, we discussed Fred's career right up through, and now as president of the vice president of the Canadian Five-Pin Bowling Association, president of the Newfoundland Bowling Association. We'll go into part 2 now, and Fred, welcome back for part 2 of Sports Personalities.
Thank you.
Fred, we talked about your career last week, and one of the questions that I didn't get to ask you last week because time have run out, what's Fred Hawco doing today in bowling?
Well, I'm working at Holiday Lanes, but I'm also actively involved in the bowling ring. I'm bowling 2 leagues, rolling with the Holiday Lanes team in the Budweiser Pro League, and I'm also rolling at St. Pat's this year on Sunday afternoon.
Fred, a question I want to ask you now is, what effect did the removal of the score pin have on the scoring in bowling?
To the good bowler, anybody who's rolling around 240, or say 240, 250, in that area, it didn't have any effect. But it had a big effect on the ladies, you know, in the 160s, 170s, 180s, because, you know, if they throw down, they knock down 4 of the 5 pins, and they didn't knock down the left-hand 2 pin, they got no score. So there was a disheartening effect. But on the lower class bowlers, I'm not saying lower class bowlers, lower average bowlers, the 180s, 190s, and 200, I say about 15 or 25 pins on the average went on.
Mm-hmm. Fred, how young do you usually start out in bowling, or how old can you be before you finish up your bowling career, or any bowling person?
As you know, we got a YBC system in Newfoundland, that's Youth Bowling Council, and they got bantams, which is, I think, I think I'm right anyway, that's from 5 years old up to 10 or 11 or whatever the case may be, and then your juniors from 11 to 15, and then the seniors from 15 to 18. And, you know, I think bowling has one of the best minor programs anywhere in Canada in any sport.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
Oh, yeah, I was going to mention to you about how old. We've had people, you know, bowling up in their 80s, you know, and we had 5 years ago, I think we had one lady, you know, and she's still alive today, a lady by the name of Noni Gut. She's German. She's Newfoundlander, but she married a German. And she represented Newfoundland in a tournament, and she was 73 years old at the time. Mm-hmm. And she really loved it. But and she was bowling last year still actively, so she'd be around 75, 76 now.
Mm-hmm. Fred, how many perfect games have we today in Newfoundland?
We have 29. The last 2 was a friend of yours, I guess, Billy Abbott, and Joe Mercer. The last 2 were all at Holiday Lanes. And the latest one was a fellow in the civil service at St. Pat's last year.
Well, let's talk about the status of bowling in Newfoundland. Fred, you're the current president of bowling in Newfoundland. How big is the membership today?
We're in the area of, okay, just back up a second, in 78 we had a membership of about 200. Today we're approaching the 3,000 mark. And like I say, we got members in Portabass, Stephenville, Cornerbrook, Bayvert, Grand Falls, Goose Bay, Gander, Carbonear, and 3 zones here in St. John's. And there's 2 more bowling centres open recently, one in Bay Roberts and one in Clarenville.
And Fred, what would the cost factor to be to send some of our teams to national competition?
Okay, we sent away last year, the YBC, as you're saying, I just mentioned a minute ago there, sent 36 bowlers and coaches away last year. Us in a 5-pin sent, I think it was 32 or 33 people away. So we're looking at the fundraising for, you know, traveling out of the province, I say it's in the neighborhood, we spend it with the airlines, up to $50,000 a year.
Mm-hmm. And how many tournaments, like what's the big tournament today in our bowling?
Nationally is the Carling O'Keefe Open. Everybody wants to get involved in the Carling O'Keefe Open.
Mm-hmm. And talking about the YBC, that has to be one of the biggest movements in bowling today, like you were saying. And you mentioned to me the other day about some of our young bowlers had gone away. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, TSN put on a program there, and they pre-taped it there a couple of weeks ago. So we had Sean Wells from St. John's, and a girl, Kelly, can't think of her last name at the moment, from Cornerbrook was involved. Kevin O'Leary from St. John's was also away. But anyway, Sean Wells won his 2 matches, and he's gone back in January 24th to participate. Him and a guy from PEI and 2 people from Manitoba are the only 4 people left in it. If Sean can win his first game and his second game, I'd say he's going to come out with close to $5,000.
Now, again, this is live when?
January 24th.
On TSN.
On TSN.
So that's be something to look forward to.
And then again, Sean Wells is one of the best bowlers in Newfoundland, and I'm including adults at this moment.
Mm-hmm. Fred, who are some of the people here in St. John's and Newfoundland that helped bowling make such great strides? Just before you answer that, I just want to mention to you that bowling at one time, I think, wasn't even recognized as a sport in the Canadian Amateur Federation, and it was more or less looked on as a pastime, but that's all changed today, right?
Yeah, that's right. We're recognized by the Sports Association of Canada, the federal government at the moment, because we got an office in the Sports Centre in Ottawa, and they recognize it as sport. Getting back to the same situation, it was only up to a couple of years ago that a lot of people didn't think bowling was a sport.
Again, the question I asked you previous to that was, who are some of the people that helped make bowling such great strides in Newfoundland today?
Well, before I took over, some of the presidents were John Constantine, I guess you know John, and Patty Fitzgerald, and Dr. Ray Fermi was in there for 4 or 5 years, and Patty Fitzgerald was there, and Annette Power was there before I was involved. And, these people, really helped get the bowling movement on the way.
Now, Fred, as president of the Newfoundland Bowling Association, just tell us a little bit about the Bowling Hall of Fame.
This is something that I started, since I become president. I started this one, and I think we got 34 members in it at the moment, right? Garner Burns in it, Jack Cranshaw's in it, and Bernice Cook, some of these people, that really good bowlers back in the 60s and that, right? And Dee Murphy's father was in there, and a few more. Then we introduced a awards program where we honor our coach of the year for Newfoundland, our female bowler of the year in Newfoundland, male bowler of the year in Newfoundland, and team of the year from Newfoundland, and executive of the year from Newfoundland. So we introduced that 5 years too also.
And I'd like to mention here that there is, probably by the time this program is aired, that we've already had another Bowling Hall of Fame induction taking place just very soon.
Yeah, that's right. And this was, as of this taping, this is, it was announced today that Mrs. Redmond, Teresa Redmond of Dorvay is going in, Carmel Vaughan, Joe Wadden, Gus Wadden, and a lady rolled back in the 60s, or in the 50s, because I seen a clip in the paper the other day of a picture of her when she was 1951, when she was on a team, Molly Grant, and she's going in.
Mm-hmm. Fred, just tell us about some amusing incidents that's happened during your bowling career that you can probably recall.
I'll tell you one that we got a little kick out last Monday night. I was working at the centre at Holiday Lanes, and a girl came up and asked to use the phone about 10 minutes later around there, and she said she wanted to phone the bingo place where they're playing bingo. I said, what's going on? She said, myself and the girlfriend, she said, got a person in there playing 5 cards each first till we get the first game of bowling over, and then we're going down to play the bingo.
That's pretty good. Fred, let's get back to the Hall of Fame again. Who are the members on the committee right now in the Bowling Hall of Fame?
Dee Murphy's chairman, and Bernice Cook is there, and John Mercer from Grand Falls, and Annette Power from Corner Brook. And I could have missed somebody now. I guess I did miss somebody in St. John's. Oh, Gusty Waters. If I missed him, I'd be shot.
Sure. Mm-hmm. And how many members are inducted each year? Is it each year that you have an induction ceremony?
Each year we have an induction. We just get we may have 10 or 15 applications, and we may only induct 5. We would, the committee would pick the 5. Don't get me wrong, I'm not letting anybody know whether I have anything to do with picking. I have nothing to do whatsoever in those people going in the Hall of Fame. And the same way with the awards, I have nothing to do with it personally. I have the awards program is handled by the media, and it's a select committee handling the Hall of Fame people. And mostly the Hall of Fame people are voted on by people that's are in there already. So they know who they're putting in.
Mm-hmm. And Fred, the competition in our own Newfoundland bowling, is it as high or better than what's on the mainland right now?
Newfoundland, when we send teams away, Newfoundland can hold their own with any province on the mainland, although Ontario now numbers games, they got 45,000 or close to 50,000 members in Ontario. BC got 34,000, right? So, here is Newfoundland with only 3,000. But the caliber we send, that we can hold our own with anything, and we win medals. It's a good prime example of the YBC. The YBC program, just about every year they win 2 or 3 medals when they go to the mainland. Mm-hmm. And that all reverts back, I didn't mean to interrupt, all reverts back to our coaching system is starting to come on stream now, and everybody's getting certified, so the kids are getting better coaching.
How many leagues are there right now under the Newfoundland Bowling Association?
Oh, I would say in the neighborhood a couple of hundred or more.
Mm-hmm. And as president of the Newfoundland Bowling Association, Fred, are our facilities up to par? Is there anything you'd like to see change that would help our bowlers compete even better than what we're doing now?
Gee, what a question throw at me. Yeah, our facilities in Newfoundland are definitely up to standard because we have a guy by the name of Dick Osmond that's certified to check every centre in Newfoundland. So he does it usually once a year or once every 2 years to certify them and that everything is okay, right? The only thing that I would be, remiss about is just about every lane in Newfoundland is string pins, other than the 2 St. John's. It's like St. Pat's is free falls at the moment, and the Plaza Ball are free falls. They're not on strings, and your tendency would be 10 to 15 pins, average-wise, on strings lower than free falls.
Mm-hmm. And who are some of our upcoming bowlers at the present time?
Well, I have put Sean Wells right at the top of the class, right? So Sean Wells, and there's Kevin O'Leary starting to come along. Bobby Osborne is rolling fairly well. Tony Redmond is another good bowler. There's a couple of young fellas there, young Edney at St. Pat's, young Redmond from Torbay, and there's a whole number of them, right? There's young Welling in Grand Falls is a good bowler, girl. She's about 18 or 19, and she is an excellent bowler, right?
How long more are we going to see Fred Hawco bowling?
Oh.
Any thoughts on retiring, or?
No thoughts on retiring from bowling, but I was selected this year for another 2-year term, so I would say after the end of that 2-year term, I might say, I think this is enough for one shot, let somebody else take over.
And of course, you will continue coaching the younger kids, our up-and-coming younger kids, and I'm sure you're quite qualified as a coach to teach our younger kids.
I hope I am anyway. I think I am anyway, because I know the game because I studied the game right up, and I know, you get into a situation where some people make mistakes thrown, I can pick out the mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Well, Fred, we'd like to thank you for joining us for the past 2 weeks on Sports Personalities. It's been a great pleasure just talking to you and learning more about the bowling in Newfoundland, and thanks for joining us again, Fred.
Thank you for having me.
Our guest tonight and for the past 2 weeks in a Part 1, Part 2 series has been our Newfoundland bowling great, Fred Hawco. So that's it for Sports Personalities this week. See you next week. Good night.
I need you. I need your help. It's my daughter, Sarah. She has cancer. Oh, she's going to get better. Because of research, she stands a chance. You can help. Please send a donation to the Canadian Cancer Society to pay for the research, for my Sarah and all the other Sarahs out there. That's why I need you. I need your help.
With your donation, cancer can be beaten. Send it today. Thank you.